Hello everybody. So, siege equipment are designed to assail castles and other walled fortifications. They see much use in campaigns that feature war. Most siege weapons don't move around on a battlefield on their own. They require creatures to move them as well as to load, aim, and fire them. Now, here's the thing. A lot of these siege weapons, from what I can tell, are non-magical. I personally love the idea of one of these siege weapons having a magical enchantment on it, but we'll get to that some other time. So, first siege weapon, the Ballista. It's considered a large object. Its armor class is 15, has 50 hit points, and it's immune to poison and psychic damage for, well, obvious reasons, I'm sure you'll know. So, a ballista is a massive crossbow that fires heavy bolts. Before it can be fired, it must be loaded and aimed. It takes one action to load the weapon, one action to aim it, and one action to fire it. So essentially it takes pretty much 3 turns to use this thing. That said, if you have 3 NPCs on the thing, it can all be done in 1 round. So, the bolt ranged weapon attack is a +6 to hit, with a range of 120/480 feet. It hits 1 target, and its damage on average is 16, 3d10 piercing damage. I would say the ballista can hit the enemy directly behind the first target. That would be my only one and only house rule to it, assuming it does kill the person in front first. If I wanted to be a bit more generous, I might say aiming it is not really an action. Aiming and firing it counts as one action for all intents and purposes, because aiming and shooting a crossbow doesn't take 2 actions. I suppose the act of turning it and such like that requires a lot of movement and such. So sure, maybe. I suppose it depends. I guess I could house rule it as if you have a crew of 2 people working the ballista. You can have the 2 people load, aim, and attack with it with just the 2 people in 1 round. Just my personal opinion on the ballista. Cannon, large object, armor class 19, hit points 75, damage immunities, poison, psychic. The cannon uses gunpowder to propel heavy balls of cast iron through the air at destructive speeds. In a campaign without gunpowder, a cannon might be an arcane device built by clever gnomes or wizardly engineers. The cannon is usually supported in a wooden frame with wheels. Before it can be fired, the cannon must be loaded and aimed. It takes 1 action to load the weapon, 1 action to aim it, and 1 action to fire it. So, it's a +6 to hit once again, 600 feet to 2400. That's freaking amazing, by the way. Hits 1 target for an average of 44 damage, 8d10. Now, notice that none of this is magical damage. So against enemies who can be immune to this sort of thing, well, they can just tank an entire tank shell to the face. I suppose if you're a ghost this makes sense, but for other magical creatures it's kind of weird with that much force and damage. Anyways, moving along, cauldrons, suspended, large object, armor class 19, hit points 20, damage immunities, poison, and psychic. Once again, a cauldron is an iron pot suspended so that it can be tipped easily, spilling its contents. Once emptied, a cauldron must be refilled, and its contents must usually be reheated before it can be used again. It takes 3 actions to fill a cauldron and 1 action to tip it. 3 actions to fill the whole thing. Cauldrons can be filled with other liquids such as acid or green slime with different effects. So the cauldron pours boiling oil onto a 10-foot square area directly below it. Any creature in the area must make a DC 15 dexterity saving throw, taking 10 damage on average, fire damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. So I would say if you have a container that's large enough, you can just do it in one round. If you cast a spell, also one round. I mean, I suppose if you can fill it in one round, then there's no reason why you can't just use that one round to empty the contents of this acid onto the enemy anyways. I would also say that, yeah, this feels like more of a trap than an actual siege weapon. There are lots of traps in the DMG. Well, maybe not the DMG, though they could be. There's a lot of traps in a lot of campaigns, like, oh, if you step on this, crossbow bolts fly at you and hit you. Poison gas, bunch of boiling oil hits you. This feels unnecessary as a piece of siege equipment. Next up, Magonel. Armor class 15, 100 hit points. It's a type of catapult that holds heavy projectiles in a high arc. This payload can hit targets behind cover. Before the Magonel can be fired, it must be loaded and aimed. It takes 2 actions to load the weapon, 2 actions to aim it, and 1 action to fire it. A Magonel typically hurls a heavy stone, although it can hurl other kinds of projectiles with different effects. It doesn't specify what kind of other projectiles there are, but it's a +5 to hit with a range of 200 to 800 feet. It can't hit targets within 60 feet in one target, and it does 27 damage or 5d10 bludgeoning damage. I would say that it can bypass eyesight to a degree. If you can't see the target you're hitting, I would say you get disadvantage to hit. That said, I believe the rules on concealment and such go up by levels. Like you get a +2 to AC if you're behind partial cover, a bit more if you're behind medium cover, and if you're behind total cover, they basically can't hit you anymore. I would say the Magonel's ability says that it is considered one step lower for each level of cover. So if you're behind total cover, you're considered medium cover, just because it can fire over it. That said, if your cover also includes a ceiling or roof, it would not work unless the ceiling or roof is really weak, in which case I would say, depending on how much damage it does to it, it can do the rest to the player who's hiding below. The Ram. Large object. Armor class 15, hit points 100, immune to poison and psychic once more. A ram consists of a movable gallery equipped with a heavy log suspended from 2 roof beams by chains. The log is shod in iron and used to batter through doors and barricades. It takes a minimum of 4 medium creatures to operate a ram. Because of the gallery roof, these operators have total cover against attacks from above. Okay, so it's not called full cover, it's total cover. Ram, melee attack, +8 to hit, reaches 5 feet, 1 object, average of 16 damage, bludgeoning. Now, it takes 4 creatures to use this thing, and it does a pitiful 3d10 damage. Now, assuming all 3 characters had long swords, that would be 1d8 per character. So that's 4d8, right? That's a minimum 4 damage and a maximum of 32 damage. Can you see where I'm going with this? The average for 4d10 to 48, is higher than 16. It's more efficient in D&D to get 4 people to use long swords to batter down a door than it is for them to use a ram. That's stupid on so many levels, right? I would say for the purposes of a ram, number 1, it deals more damage, right? Number 2, the 4 people who are doing this get advantage on their attacks against the door. And next of all, I would let me get the player's handbook quickly. In the player's handbook, there is one weapon called the portable ram. I would base it more off that and just make it more powerful if, slower. It doesn't even say how fast it can be, or it's really annoying, these rules. It's like, come on, man. Adventuring Guild, page 148. Here we go. Let's see. Portable ram. Portable ram. Where is the portable ram? Here we go. You can use a portable ram to break down doors. When doing so, you gain a +4 bonus to the strength check. Other creatures can help you use the ram, giving you an advantage on this check. So, breaking down doors, and forcing them open is actually a strength check. I didn't misremember it. So in this case, if you're using a ram as a large object, I would say you get advantage on this roll with 4 people, and at minimum, +8 to the check. At minimum, assuming we're not treating the door as a separate creature that can be destroyed, that has hit points and such like that. I would say, in that case, a ram against a door automatically hits, and that would be like the main advantage versus 4 people with long swords. Because I can assume, like, if you have a long sword and you're trying to hit a door, it can bounce off at the wrong angle. Whereas a ram's impact is never a glancing blow. It's straight on, always. Moving along, a siege tower. Armor class 15, hit points are 200. A siege tower is a mobile wooden structure with a beam frame and slats in its walls. Large wooden wheels or rollers allow the tower to be pushed or pulled by soldiers or beasts of burden. Medium or small creatures can use the siege tower to reach the top of walls up to 40 feet. A creature in the tower has total cover from attacks from outside the tower. Seems pretty reasonable. If I made a siege tower in a D&D game, I would also give it ladders and such like that. Depending on how it's constructed, there could be vulnerable areas of attack and such like that. If the siege tower is destroyed, obviously, and people are on top of it, it says it can reach the top of walls up to 40 feet high. The person would just drop and fall. Trebuchet, my favorite siege weapon of all time. Armor class 15, 150 hit points. As always, poison and psychic immunity. A trebuchet is a powerful catapult that throws its payload in a high arc, so it can hit targets behind cover. Before the trebuchet can be fired, it must be loaded and aimed. It takes 2 actions to load the weapon, 2 actions to aim it, and 1 action to fire it. Trebuchet typically hurls a heavy stone. However, it can launch other kinds of projectiles, such as barrels of oil or sewage with different effects, which once again, it does not describe in here, and that annoys me. Trebuchet stone, range attack, +5 to hit, range 300 to 1200 feet, can't hit targets within 60 feet of it, 1 target, average damage of 44, 8d10 bludgeoning damage. Once again, very similar to the Magonel, but it just hits much harder, and it goes a bit longer. Anyways, those are the siege pieces of siege equipment here. That's my Dungeon Master's Guide to the Dungeon Master's Guide. I look forward to seeing you all next time. My name is Freebewits. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And until next time, bye-bye.